Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Casual Brews, and I'm gonna be doing my first Blue Jays video. Um, yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of be touching on like recent events regarding the Jays and their recent games and kind of the outlook on the rest of the season as it winds down. Um, so as I'm recording this right now, it's Wednesday night of the 22nd of September. Jays just lost 7-1 against the Tampa Bay Rays in the hellhole that is the Tropicant field, where they never play well. All you can really say is that, well, at least they won 2 out of 3 when Tampa came to Toronto recently. So, if you were to ask most Jays fans, would you take a 500, win-loss against the Jays, or it's the Rays, and those two series, they'd probably say yeah, because a lot of other winnable games, winnable series, lesser opponents that you're going to be playing. And basically, I'll start it off like a pretty big Jays fan, honestly. I know sometimes Jays fans in Vancouver get a bad rap about bandwagoner, this and that, but I've been a Blue Jays fan for as long as I've known baseball. So, like 20 plus years. I played, along with hockey, baseball was like the first sport I played kind of growing up. So, 20 years I've like been a baseball fan, along with obviously football and hockey, but I've been a baseball fan of like the Jays through good and bad. I rooted for them when they were dog shit in the early 2010s until obviously 2015 came around and they were kind of put on the national map again and did really well. I've been down to Seattle for Blue Jays games against the Mariners, and I probably in the very, very minority, I do actually like the Mariners a little as well. If I weren't rooting for the Jays, I'd root for the Mariners because I just love Seattle sports. I know it's like a sin, like Jays and Mariners fans hate each other. Mostly Mariners fans hate Jays fans because, pre-COVID, whenever there was a series in Seattle, Jays fans flocked the stadium and overtook everything. But yeah, no. Yeah, so basically, yeah, about a month ago, the Jays were like 5.5, 6 games back of a wild card, and I really did not see this coming where they'd be back in a playoff situation. And that wasn't because I didn't think the Jays could win some games and put up a decent end to the season. I just figured, okay, the teams at the time they were chasing, the Oakland, Yankees, and the Red Sox, were all playing really well. So, like, when you're trailing a team by like 5 or 6 games, winning doesn't do, and you have to, the other teams have to lose. And I just didn't look at those teams are going to lose. I thought the Jays could still put up a good record at the end of the season, but I didn't think the teams in front of them would lose enough. And sure as shit, Yankees kind of, after their massive win streak, started losing. Red Sox started losing a little bit. And then that series against Oakland was like just the change. They swept Oakland. That helped them get to there, but they still have to catch the Yankees and the Red Sox for the wild card. So, that's going to be tough. And then the Yankees started losing, and then what happens? They go into New York. They go into New York and they win 4 straight games. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, their record at Yankee Stadium is not that good. It's just not. Even when they were really good in 2015, 2016, they did not generally play that well at Yankee Stadium. And sure as shit, they go in there, catch a Yankees team that was reeling, having a really hard time scoring runs, some really unbalanced offense that was like home run or bust, having a hard time getting guys on base, cashing in guys on base. One of the least, I think they were like the least clutch team with runners in scoring position. So they caught them at a good time, swept them in 4 games, and then all of a sudden, boom, the Jays are in the wild card. And unfortunately, as I'm making this video, they're now a half game back, but they have the Twins now coming up for 4 games who aren't very good. They just won 2 out of 3 against the Twins last week, whatever it was. So you hope they can win 3 of those 4, and then thankfully Yankees and the Red Sox play each other. So obviously one of those teams has to lose, but realistically speaking, the Red Sox are, I think, 2 games up in the wild card for the first spot. So it's like, at this point, you kind of want to just concede that first wild card spot to the Red Sox. They've won like 7 in a row, I think. They're on fire. Those piss yellow jerseys they're wearing, they're not going to take them off until they lose a game. So yeah, you almost want to just concede that, whatever, we'll go play the wild card game at Fenway Park if we have to, and hope the Red Sox just beat the crap out of the Yankees, and then We beat the Twins at least 3 out of 4 games, and then we're back in, that second wild card spot. But yeah, I mean, a lot of shit happened in the Rays series. Game 1 was a travesty. The umpiring, I think generally umpiring is supposed to kind of balance out. One team gets a bad call, maybe in the first inning, another team gets a bad call in the ninth inning. It kind of evens out, but Game 1 was so blatantly bad, where Jays were rallying. They were down, I think, 6-2 in that first game against Tampa. They had 2 runners on when I think Hernandez came up to bat. And then he had or maybe his bases loaded, I forget. But either way, 1 out and just 2 awful strike calls called. Momentum's a real thing. You think they just scored 2 runs in that ninth inning so far. And Hernandez is arguably the second best overall hitter when you look about home runs, everything next to Vladdy in the team, comes up and just gets hosed. And, he gets out. And then they kind of rally still, and then it gets down to Valera in the lineup, and he gets 2 terrible calls too. And then I think at that point the bases were loaded, still only down 2 runs. So, who knows what happens? He thinks he gets a 3-1 pitch off the plate, thinks he's going to walk in a run to not only put the game within 1, but then to bring up obviously the tying run with still bases loaded, right? So he gets a 3-1 pitch to him, clearly off the plate, called a strike. He can't believe it, and then he takes a 3-2 pitch, right clearly in the strike zone. But you got to think he's so discombobulated by 2 bad calls in his at bat too. The 3-0 pitch he got to him was also a ball that got called a strike. So he was discombobulated. He didn't know what to fucking do. Swing, take, terrible umpiring. He strikes out to end the game, and they lose Game 1. Come back Game 2, valiant effort, another badly umpired game. Jays pull out a win. And then Game 3 was just never close. Jays kind of made it interesting. They had, I think they had multiple times where there was 2 men on base for Jake Lamb, who, besides, I think he hit 1 home run. I remember he had a clutch sac fly, I want to say, in the Yankees series, or maybe the Orioles series, actually. But he's been pretty terrible since coming over. I mean, the White Sox flat out cut him. What can you expect? Can't expect much from him, but they're playing him, it feels like, every second or third day because Espinal and Biggio are both out at third, so Jake Lamb, a lefty batter, and nowadays everyone's obsessed with the lefty-righty matchup, so Lamb's getting tons of playing time, even though Valera, switch hitter, should be playing every day at third base. He can bat left or right-handed. It doesn't matter. So Lamb's getting far too much playing time. He kind of stinks, and he stunk in this game. He alone probably left enough runners in scoring position that could have won him the game, but nonetheless, they lose Game 3, lose the series 2-1, but the Jays, I don't know when the last time they won a series in Tropicant Field. They might have once this year, actually, now that I think about it, but anyway, they generally just stink there, so we can't be too surprised. They got to come to Minnesota, and they got to win 3 or 4 at minimum. It should have been all 4, because Minnesota isn't very good, but Minnesota hits the ball well. They score runs. Their pitching just sucks, so hopefully, Jays can capitalize on their pitching and at least win 3, if not 4 of those games. And then get in a wild card spot. Again, they're only half a game back, so by all means they can. Because I think, at least I hope Boston just beats the crap out of the Yankees. Because if the Yankees win, 2, if not 3 of those games against Boston, it doesn't do much good. I mean, it gets us closer to Boston, but then it just makes that 3-team cluster where it's just, look at the odds, what are the odds of us winning a 3-team deadlock tie versus us winning that 1 game at Fenway Park? I think we can win a game at Fenway Park more likely than we can win a 3-way clusterfuck tie. It's just, at this point, you kind of want to just root for the Red Sox to kill the Yankees, get us a comfortable spot in the wild card game. It's 1 game, home field, whatever, doesn't mean as much. I think this team, who has played on the road goddamn half the season, can win 1 game in Boston to get to the ALDS against, unfortunately, again, the Rays, who would have 3 games out of the 5 in Tampa Bay. But who knows? So, yeah, probably not going to say much more other than maybe only the thing that's been kind of eating at me is Springer doesn't look right. He's had obviously 2 major injuries this year. They've rushed him back. He's now clogging up the DH spot. As much as I love him, much as he's been insanely clutch much of this season, something is still up with him. He was big in game 2 of that Tampa series, but I still think against a team like Minnesota, who's not that good, doesn't have good pitching, I think it would be nice to sit him maybe for the whole series, a little or at bare minimum, maybe the first couple games. And that way you can get someone else to DH, give them a bit of a break from playing the field, and then get like, you can like put Kirk at DH and then have like Jansen catching, who's been playing he's been hitting the bat decent. Or you can have, Vladdy DH, and you can put like Gurriel at first base, and it lets you play like Dickerson, Hernandez, and I guess Grichuk in the outfield. I don't know, but so I guess it's not like a ton of great alternatives. I know Grichuk's been overall having a good September, but he was so the first game against Tampa or second, he had some terrible at bats. But anyway, just Grichuk. I think Springer against a team like Minnesota, you would hope to be able to rest him because you have a massive, massive series against the Yankees coming up after that, which could decide the wildcard spot right there. By all means, like if Yankees do somehow win like 2 out of 3 against Boston, the Jays and Yankees could go into that series tied for the second wild card. So it's like literally like a playoff series at that point, even though each team has a series after that. But the Jays play Baltimore, and the Yankees could be playing a Rays team in their last series of the year, which is already locked down their position for the whole American League. So they may not play their guys, right? So, yeah, it's tough. A lot of tough decisions to make. I still think, it'd be beneficial to rest Springer, move that DH spot around, because Springer's basically been hogging the DH ever since he came back. And in the past, that was more of a common thing. But now it's like the Jays really like to like rotate that DH around to get guys like Guerrero and sometimes like Teoscar or like Bichette off their feet in the field for a game and let someone else come in to get an extra body in the lineup, so to speak. But yeah, big series against the Twins. You gotta win. You gotta win 3 of those. If you don't win, I feel like the way their luck is kind of gone. Sometimes it's like if you don't win at least 3 of those games, the Yankees will just go and win their series against Boston, and then doesn't really, because Boston's already far enough ahead in the wildcard race that actually the Yankees, even if the Yankees swept Boston, that would probably put them in Boston tied, and then would put the Jays back like a couple games. So that wouldn't be actually good. At this point, you concede the first wildcard spot to Boston, and you want to just get that safe second wildcard. So hopefully, Yankees lose to Boston, and then come in and somehow win a game at Fenway Park in the wildcard game.